in the word of Jesus.
In fact, the Quran says
the word of Jesus
in certain matter,
it also says we have it.
I think that is the red one.
It says those Christians that don't judge by the Injil, they're the sinners. You let go of the law.
That's true.
Yeah, so you let go of the law.
It says we're no better than those who rebel.
Yeah.
We don't judge by the gospel. That's what I'm saying. So yeah, the point I'm making here is we could go to any one of the like Sunni Dawa guys and they would tell us our book's been corrupted. We need to get rid of it. Like Ali Dawa said, if you have one drop of poison in there, you have one drop of poison in the drink, then you drink it, then the whole thing is going to poison you.
So guys, there's been I only got into this thing. I only recently became a Christian. The reason why I became a Christian is not because someone told me this and that. Actually, Jesus and God Himself visited me in a dream. It was overwhelming, right? So in this instance here, so that's why I'm only studying other religions just to see what's out, what else is there against us as a Christian. So in this instance, they're talking about the Quran and the Bible, the Gospel, and the Torah. So in the Quran, it states that if you have any confusion about the Quran, go back to the people of the book with the Torah and the Gospel, right? As a reference, as a guide, right? Now, they were saying, the Muslim was saying, we can't go back to them because they are corrupted, right? They are corrupted. So another people, Christians, are saying, if our books are corrupted, so is your book, because it tells you to go back to that as a reference. Okay, let's just focus on if you talk to this logic, this explanation to a non-religious person, okay, just any random people, non-religion people who has some sort of common sense, right? So there's three different books. Book one and book two. Okay, book one came first, book two came second, book three came third. Now, book three has said that I will affirm that book one and book two is true. Okay, right? So that means if you tell that person that this equation, book three says that book one and two is true, and that book one and book two contradicts what's in book three, that makes it book three is false, because it already said the ones that come before are correct. So if they're correct here, book one and book two are correct, then book three is false, because it's not the same as what book one and book three says, right? So if book one and book two is corrupted, is false, then book three is also false. If you explain this logic to anybody, it's they will understand how that means, because it's an equation. If book three confirmed that book one and book two is true, then book three has to define itself between book one and book two, right? Because at the end of the day, people say it's been corrupted. It's interesting. Like, if it's corrupted, why do you tell us to go? Why do you tell your people to go back to these books as a reference? It's just nonsense. It's just like the same thing when they say you do not understand Arabic and understand the Quran unless you grasp Arabic in its full meaning. What is the purpose of that? Okay, that's just crazy. You people are crazy. You guys are blinded. Do not understand the concept of that phrase mean, right? It's also looking at the aspect as you have a religion that comes up like 500 or 600 years later than those two religions, right? Book one and book two. How can you say it's and you're following a man that has very bad morals, and how can you use him as a role model to all of your people of your religion, when it does things that are not this isn't even follow. He broke the 10 Commandments, for example, right? It's the whole point of that is you have to, if you say go back to the Torah has the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments states that you all have to follow that. Even us as a Christian, we have to follow the 10 Commandments. Okay? Just like Jesus does. Jesus does the 10 Commandments, and so do we.
and yeah, just how do you justify being religion came over and saying that it will replace all the wrongdoings of the first and second book, and you're claiming it's the same God? How can God has two different books, three different books, a third book that comes after to replace what's already been done? It doesn't make sense, okay? Because it doesn't make sense, because Islam is a made-up, man-made religion. God does not make religion in the first place. God did not want a religion. It's man-made. Man may create all these doctrines, these laws to suit them. Yeah, just like Muhammad created it to suit him, so you can have four wives and more in your religion. Okay, I will talk to that about the wives next as well. Like, God created, passed all these laws down from the Torah to the gospel, and then suddenly he has a different path and a different story that contradicts what came before. How can that God be the same God as they have both two different paths? Okay, one of them is corrupted. Okay, because you got to remember, they also claim. Look at this, right?
The Jews never came to him to speak about theology. Yeah? It wasn't a theological discussion.
Well, not in that
It was very
context.
specific.
On the judgment cushion, he says, I told you. I would say, yeah, I believe in parts of it, but it would be very...
Just to make
We
it.
agree.
Legislation, have your law.
Served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many.
What I'm saying is, look,
You believe in it, yes?
You read the Quran. There's clear passages in the Quran that speaks about your theology. I don't know what it is. Yeah? But the theological positions the Quran disagrees with. Yeah?
For a 9, I'm only saying what Sunni scholars... I mean, it says it in Genesis. It says it by the time you get to Genesis 25. He fulfilled it. He said, and he raised up 12 princes, and these are their names. So that was already fulfilled.
It was his
in the Old
12
Testament.
sons.
It's Muslim dawah that says that's referring to
Okay, so do you
Muhammad.
believe these people now, they're finished? They no longer exist?
No, they exist. They've lost their
So where
national
are they?
identity. They've lost their national identity.
Can be, because it's a
no,
God
you
promise.
look, where are the
I must-
where
So in this context, they saying in the Torah and Genesis that God has, Abraham has a son named Ishmael, Ishmael and Isaac, and that God follow Ishmael and give him blessings, right? So God did give him the blessing, great nations, 12 princes, right? 12 princes. Now, if God were to finally deviate, instead of going with Isaac, God went with Ishmael, so it become two different paths, right? Ishmael and Isaac. Okay, we understand in the Torah, Genesis, and Isaac, there is history that came after Isaac. What happened to Isaac? Had two sons, the twins, Esau and Jacob, and then so forth with other sons, like the 12 tribes and so forth. And then God took them rescued them through the Egypt, walking through the desert for 40 years, so forth. There's a history that goes along because God wants you to see where everything begins and how it got to where Jesus is. So if you claiming Muslim, they're claiming that God departed from there and went to Ishmael, we should expect the same thing from you, okay? From you. So what happened to in your books, in your text, where is it? What happened to Ishmael? What happened to his stories? What happened to his 12 princes? How did he come to the Mecca? What happened? So you created a kingdom, and then what? You just sit there and nothing happens. So you need to know what happened to all those princes. What happened to them? Did they do anything crazy? Did they have any prophets and miracles? Did they do anything? Because if God was with them, at the same time as God was with Jacob and his and all his spouses, we should expect to see God wanting the same thing from Ishmael and from his spouses, and there's no record of anything like that. Okay, that means that God has fulfilled what He said. He blessed Ishmael and the 12 princes with great nations, and that's what they've done, and that's it. If God was to deviate the two paths and He decided to go with Ishmael instead of Jacob, then you have more stories behind that. Okay, you can't just say your prophet Muhammad is connected to Ishmael when there's no evidence of what connected to the prophet Muhammad. We have the connection from Isaac down to Israel, Isaac to Israel and all the tribes until they create their own nations. So you have a history of that happening. In Muhammad, there is no history. You can claim as you want, but there's no history. You can claim as you want. There's no evidence, anything that back that up with your Quran. We have evidence of it. The story is there. It's well known, and the whole thing is backed up from Jesus from the start and Jesus to the end. Okay, the most talk people, the most talk person in the whole planet is Jesus, because he's the one that's going to come back. He's the only one that's going to save us. I'm just letting you guys know that the end of the world is going to come very shortly, guys. Very shortly, the judgment will come, and when that day that Yahshua comes, every knee will bow to him, and there's no way that you can be saved unless you you accept him with all your heart. Okay, the only way that you know that you worship the right God, when you seek him, God will come to you in your dreams. You have Jesus and God will come to you, because I have God came to me in my dream, and the feeling of that was so pure and so happy, and it just being accepted. It's so unreal, the feeling of having in the presence of God. Even in your dream, you can feel it, right? If you don't have that kind of feeling where God visit you in your dream, then you're following the wrong God. Okay, you're seeking the wrong God. You're seeking the wrong path. You can't just go into a religion and just believe it if you don't know what God looks like. You don't know what the feeling of God is. Okay, you need that feeling of God's presence in your life, and the Holy Spirit. That's the only way that you know you're walking in the right path. So all you Muslim out there, have you seen any God? So have God come to you in the dreams? You will hear it's not very common at all for a Muslim to have God come into their dreams, because they don't do that. It's that. So and that's why you have lots of Muslims in the country. People claiming that they see visions of Jesus, see visions of God, and they convert to the Christ, right? So if you don't see what your God looks like, how would you know when he comes back to know that who you are or who he is, right? It's pretty simple logic, really. So I wish you guys God bless. That want you to open your eyes, because what you saying, what you claiming is nonsense. To believe something that came way past the book of the God of the gospel and the Torah, and to something that is different and opposite of the teachings. It's insane that you guys do not see what is happening, and that it's how can you understand the Quran if you don't know Arabic? You're just following blindly, guys. Take care, guys. God bless. Hope that Yahshua, Jesus, will come into your dreams. If you truly want to know the truth, you truly want to seek God, then you pray to God. You pray to God, and you ask him with all your heart. You keep asking him every day. You keep asking him, guys. Keep asking him, and keep trying to do no evil, do no sin, and he will reveal to you. Because he says, if you seek, you will find me. All right? So if you seek God and you haven't found him, then you're seeking in the wrong place. If you truly seek God, open your heart, and he reveal yourself to you in a dream and a vision, then you found him, right? Take care. God bless.